Hi, everybody. My name is Mark. I'm going to tell you about my project. So, the title of my project is Good versus Evil: The Portrayal of Race and Nationalism in the show 24. Um, could go on to my first slide, tell you a little bit about the 24 series in case you haven't seen it. It's a high intense, very controversial, action packed series that started in 2001 and went on for about, I think, 9 seasons, might be 8. But there's going to be a comeback season in May, and should be pretty interesting. Anyway, 24 takes place at a counterterrorism unit, or CTU, and it follows the story of Jack Bauer, who is the CTU agent. He's the main guy of the show. He's the hero. How it works is there's 24 episodes, each with an hour long, and it kind of counts down how much time is left in the episode. I got highly criticized for the torture scenes in 24, and I'm on slide 2, by the way. A lot of people, there was some very questionable torture scenes, maybe like one per season. They were pretty consistent with that. Kind of offended a lot of people, but that's not the focus of my project. Anyway, this series came out it came out right after 9/11, November actually, of 2002. So it's a strong source of American nationalism. What I mean by that is it's like one of those makes you feel good to be an American type of ordeal, portrays America as the best. The other countries are nothing compared to us type of show. On to the third slide. So the main star, Jack Bauer, and his picture is on the third slide. He is portrayed as the ideal American. And what I mean by this is he's got blonde hair, blue eyes. He works hard. He does anything for the country, and doesn't matter what it is: torture, attacking, giving up his family, fighting for his family, attacking his friends sometimes, just for America. They symbolize he is America in the show. On to the next slide, slide 4. So for my project, what I did is I wanted to conduct research on a small sample size of the series and look for sources of nationalism in this sample size. Nationalism, racism, and within the racism, some colorblind racism, which we learned about in class. That picture is kind of that's the 7th season of 24 in the cast with Jack in front. So the methods I did for doing this was picked out 2 episodes of the series that I was going to analyze. And I watched them a couple times, took notes, just kind of looked in depth for some of the things that we learned in class about nationalism, racism, colorblind racism, etc. And then I also reviewed 5 different peer-reviewed articles kind of that supported either my theories or what I found when I analyzed these episodes. The picture of this, I thought it was kind of funny that they, because I ended up finding, they had all the flags in the background of all these Americans. It's just, I don't know, I thought it was comical. Anyway, so for the nationalism part, before watching it, I knew what I wanted to look for. So I looked for sources kind of American dominance, them hinting at American superiority, putting other countries in bad light or not as good, or just somewhat hinting that America was better. I also looked for negative portrayals of other countries. So if they had people that were from the Middle East and said that they were, and then they made them look terrible, as portrayed them as a killer, just as a bad person, and they do that. And what I found when I viewed these episodes were they did portray Middle Eastern people as ruthless killers. There was at one point where the American president in the show, they were talking about what they were going to do and how all these suitcase bombs were going off by these terrorists, and saying that they were targeting children. And then the next scene, they flash to the terrorist point of view and how the suitcase bombs have been such a good success. And it kind of puts the image in the viewer's eyes that, they were a success because they were killing children. It makes it you think that they wanted to kill American children. In the show, uh, every single Middle Eastern person in this show, every single one, hated America. They made it look like that. So in the back of your brain, even though you know it's just a television show, you're kind of getting subconsciously the idea that all Middle Eastern people hate us, and they do portray Americans as like the police, the smarter, the stronger characters throughout the show and the series. Actually, late in the series, a lot of the times, and this has happened in quite a few of the series, what they'll do is throughout the entire season they have this. They'll have Middle Eastern or African people that are portrayed as terrorists trying to take over or set off an atomic bomb or launch warheads, and then Jack Bauer, the ideal American, stops them. And in the end of the season, you find out that it was a rich white American behind it the entire time that was just trying to use these people as pawns for a scheme so he could make more money. And that kind of supplements the idea that, these guys aren't even smart enough to run a terrorist operation by themselves. They still have to listen to a white person. And it's just wrong. That's terrible. Anyway, to the next slide of racism at the top. So before I viewed these episodes, what I looked for was betrayals of different races in negative light, stereotypes, racial profiling, and hatred between one race to another. What I found in these episodes was that they were racial profiling against brown-skinned people, mostly. And there's a clear separation between white and brown. So what happened was in this episode, all of the terrorists were from the Middle East, and they had kind of like a side story going on in which there is these two families that lived in America, and they were kind of like just having a normal day, and then next thing you know, the one family was Middle East, by the way. And they were completely separate from the normal terrorist story with Jack. And then next thing you know, they find the one white boy finds like some sort of suitcase over at his Middle Eastern friends, and they're probably about 18. And the Middle Eastern guy starts freaking out, and then the white American realizes it's a bomb, and then the 18-year-old Middle Eastern kid takes his whole family hostage, shoots his dad. Then next thing you know, he was a terrorist cell working for the terrorists. And it just kind of gives the idea. It's like it's every single person that's from the Middle East with their skin is brown and they are a terrorist. That's what this show is implementing. Even this nice family, rich family, they were in a rich house that was just right next to this other family, they're from the Middle East, so let's make them a terrorist. And just kind of the ideas and the values that they show throughout the series are very negative of other races, very negative. So to my last slide, the final review. It's just a small sample size of the 2 episodes I watched, but if you do watch all the shows, and I've seen the entire series, all 8-9 seasons, it does portray Middle Eastern people as terrorists, and it can kind of give the public, it gives a bad image to the viewer. It makes the viewer think, oh, there's a Middle Eastern person, they're a terrorist because, in 24, they were all terrorists, so why isn't that guy? Why isn't my neighbor? It's American dominance is shown throughout the entire series, all 9 seasons. Jack Bauer is just, the man, the American. Whatever he does is right because it's for America. And the colorblind racism, I didn't find in any of my episodes, but I could reference it in the series. I actually put this quote in here that I created, but still. Anyway, so I'll just read it off the slide. Well, sure, they do make all the people from the Middle East look like ruthless killing terrorists, but they do have a black man as a president on the show, so that makes them not racist. One of the things that I found in my research is that they they were praised for having a black president on the show, and they portray him very positively. He's very good in the series, and I thought that kind of highlighted what we learned about the colorblind racism. Well, people could say, "Oh no, they're not being racist against Middle Eastern people. They have a black man as president. How could they be being racist?" Well, they still can. They're just kind of justifying it. Another thing, the final thing, there's a new series that starts in May. It's coming up, I think, in next week, 24, next Monday. 24 starts up again. It took like a 4-season break because the guy that played Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland, I believe he went to prison. And I recommend checking it out and looking. I know I'm going to be watching it just to look for these patterns and see if they still are doing this. And I know the main reason that this show was so popular was because, right after 9/11 and after the Middle East attacks, this show portrayed them in negative light and portrayed the Americans beating them and Jack Bauer being that ideal American. And that's how it gained so much popularity, but it was heavily criticized throughout the way for this. So I hope you like my presentation. Please message me if you have any questions. Criticize me all you want, please. That'd be great so I can improve it come the final paper. But that's all I got. Thanks.